Hi, and welcome to Marketing Live TV for this week, where you can engage in real life marketing live on the show. Right, so this week we're continuing with the second show in our Blogging for Business series, and it's all about writing. So make sure that you join us on Facebook, on YouTube, or Periscope. I'm going to go live and cover writing your blog posts, connect on these social channels, and stay tuned to find out more. All right, so writing your blog posts. Now, last week we covered how to plan out and structure your blog for your business, and a few tips and tricks on what you should do. Unfortunately, we don't have anyone with us this week, but we will definitely have someone with us next week to cover the next show, which is distribution. So make sure you stay tuned on Wednesday, Australian Eastern Standard Time, AEST, 8:30 on Wednesdays. All right, and just to let everyone know, if you are on Facebook or Twitter or on Periscope, make sure that you sing out and you make sure you comment, I should say, on YouTube and Facebook or Periscope. Let us know if you have any blogging tips or tricks. I'll give you a call out and we'll go from there. So this week I'm going to jump straight in and into the blogging part, and I'm going to start with what in my research for this. So we were doing some bits and pieces, and we were talking about the structure of blog posts. Now, one thing that we found that we thought was really quite interesting, and it sums up pretty well, although I don't necessarily agree or conform to it all the time, but it's a good start. So I'll bring that up here. Sorry, just a few technical difficulties, which is all part of the live streaming part, so just bear with me a second. I will bring that up. There we go. All right. So, live streaming, gotta love it, don't you? Hey, all right. So let's bring this up here. Now, one of the guys at Social Triggers obviously has put together this how to write the perfect blog post, and visually it shows quite an interesting layout. And now the link to this is in the description if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, head over to YouTube, everyone else, and you can grab the link. But basically, just search for how to write the perfect blog post, and this will come up with the guys from Social Triggers. Now, while we agree that it's not always the perfect structure, it's a good way of visually representing the parts that you should be looking at when you're writing your blog post. So you do need a really attention-grabbing headline. You need your opening paragraph to be absolutely captivating so that they continue reading. You need to have images in there. Now, they mentioned here about half with images. Good, bad, or ugly. You do need to have some sort of visual appeal, hopefully something relevant, and oops. Oh, sorry, and then your calls, your main content, and your calls to action. So, just on that, I just wanted to cover off some of the really critical parts to kind of each of those. Now, the blog writing part will completely depend on who you're writing it for. So the length, will depend on who you're writing it for. The detail also depends on who you're writing it for. So an example of that is if you're writing how to build a widget and you need to go into the detail of the materials and blah blah blah, and you're writing it from an engineering perspective, then you're going to need to go into a lot of detail, which means the length's going to be longer, and you probably also need to include some detail on where that research can be found and that sort of thing. That sort of information is useful for that target market, but that sort of detail wouldn't be very good for a fashion blogger, where they might want to go into the detail of how they came up with the design and that sort of thing, but it's more visual, and they would more likely want to show more images rather than the content of the engineering side of that. So the first part is knowing who your target audience is, and we went through that in the last show. Now, in writing your posts, the best thing to do is structure what you want that target person who reads that to take away or do. Now, I know 99 times out of 100, your objective will be for them to buy something from you, but it doesn't always need to be that. It can be that your objective might just be that they remember that article and they put your brand next to that article, and by doing that, when they come back to thinking about it, they then come back to thinking about you and you as an expert in that area. Hence, you may down the line get paid for what you did. And that is overall how you want to keep thinking about that for every part of what you do when you're writing your blog post. So let's start with the title. So the title, as we saw in this, pardon me, it's all about grabbing attention. Grab attention, but grab attention in a really relevant way. Don't go writing clickbaiting type titles. Make sure that you're getting the attention for what the article it deserves. And the other reason we need to do this is for the SEO purposes. Make sure that you're saying in the title what you want that article to rank for, but make it attention grabbing at the same time. So then in the second part, structuring your what they call opening here, but your introduction. Now, in my experience when I was writing articles and that sort of thing, from an academic point of view, I was always told to leave the introduction till last, because you know all of the other topics that you're talking about, and you can then summarize or basically capture the best part of that, the most engaging part of that, in the introduction after you've gotten all the detail out. So I still recommend that. Forget the introduction, jump straight into the content and break it down. So break down your content into very short paragraphs. People are reading on multiple different devices, so include line spacing of 1.5 times at least. It spreads out the content and makes it less difficult to read, especially a lot easier to read on mobile. Make sure your font size is large enough so that people can read it on a mobile or a desktop device. Make sure you have enough contrast. So make sure the background is dark the background is white and the text is dark, so that you can read it easily. Make sure you include images in that content, and make sure you include subheadings. Breaking it down into subheadings into short paragraphs and subheadings allows the customer who you're writing it for, although many bloggers think they're writing it for themselves, they're actually not. They're writing it so that someone reads it. And if no one wants to read it because it's too crammed, then sorry, but basically you lose them. So make sure it's easy to read for your customers. Short paragraphs, subheadings, and contrast, and a few images thrown in. So once you've written the content, go back and strip it down. Make sure get rid of all of the fluff. Make sure it's easy to read, it flows, there's no mistakes and there's no errors. Then from there, write your conclusion. What is it, or your summary, or whatever it is. Now, by doing that, you've got the point that you're trying to make at the end. And the point that you're trying to make should match what you originally set out to do. Now you can go back and write your introduction. Now, your introduction is the second most critical part of your blog. Why? Because the title will capture the person's attention to get them there. And the introduction, if they don't get through the introduction, they're not going to read the rest of your blog. So make sure that you definitely make an attention-grabbing introduction, second only to your title. So once you've done that, then go back again and add in the links and call to action that you want them to do. So and this is predominantly from an SEO point of view, but it's also for your references, for your any actions that you would like them to do, any further articles that you've written in more detail on a specific topic, all of that sort of stuff. Link back to them. One, it keeps referring to you as an expert, but two, if you add a call to action, so for example, if you're writing about fashion and you mention a certain fashion item and then and you have a link to somewhere they can purchase that item, then that's obviously what you want them to do. So then you need to include that. There's so many blogs out there that have really good content and what I would say spew out a great article, but then you get to the end and you go, well, that's great, and I will never ever engage with that again. So make sure that you have a call to action, you have something, and it might well be that all your call to action is to subscribe so that you can find out more next time. That may be it, but that's okay. So make sure you include it. Okay, so before going on, marketing hack. Now, last week introduced a new topic just to break up the show, and this week's marketing hack is all about Twitter. So Twitter is an interesting place or social media outlet that when you're looking, and I'm just going to share the so looking at Twitter, there's basically, you can see right now I'm live on Marketing Live TV, and but when you go to making a post, if we go here, now you can write your post and you can do all of this, but and they've added this, add another tweet, but it all sends this at the time that you tweet it. So it doesn't, while there's scheduling software out there and there's bits and pieces out there, what happens if you want to post a post later on? So the hack for this is to jump on and create an ads account. So if I bring this up, so this is the ads account for Marketing Live TV, and as there's not very many ads, that we don't really post any ads because it's not an objective. But what you can do is you can go to creatives, or you can actually just go to tweet, create a tweet, and what it will allow you to do is it will allow you to schedule your tweets. So if we say, hi, we're live, chatting about blogging for business. I can then schedule this tweet to go, and let me just so I will schedule this to go in. Oh, no, I can't schedule it for a couple of minutes, but as you can see, you can schedule it for a period of time, very in advance, so you could do multiple posts without any need for scheduling software. And the second advantage to this little marketing hack is posts created within the platform mostly do a lot better than posts generated outside and pushed to the platform. Now, that's not always the case, but in a general sense, people want you to be working within the platform, these companies. So that's this week's marketing hack. If you want to start scheduling your tweets and you haven't set up a separate social scheduling software, you can create an ads campaign. There's no cost to do it unless you're spending money, and you can schedule your posts. All right, so let's get back to the show. All right, so here we have, so we've talked about creating your posts and creating the full layout, and we've talked about your title, your intro, your images, adding your links and your call to action and your references. Once you've done all that, the point that I have to stress the most is go back and revise it. Walk away, grab a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, come back and just read it, and read it out loud. Because the reason we read it out loud is when you say it out loud, you hear yourself. And when you hear yourself reading it, the mistakes come all out. Now, I personally am terrible at spelling, so I always get someone else to read over that part, because I will, and without doubt, stuff it up. And hence why I always get someone else to review it. There's a whole heap of tools for doing this. There's Grammarly, there's tools for, there's spell check, write it in Word and copy it over, whatever you need to do, but make sure that it's correct. Now, and then the probably last bit is that I wanted to cover in the show today is video and interactive content. Now, video and interactive content is phenomenally helpful for engaging users, but it has to not detract from the content of the blog. So if it's useful, so if it's an instructional blog and you're explaining to people how to do a series of tasks, and you include videos on how to do those tasks within the blog, absolutely great. But if you're writing, as we were talking about before, how to create a widget, and you're talking about all these materials, and then you've got some other interactive game on there that shows them how to build a paper airplane, then it's not, while it will engage people, they'll lose focus from what you were doing and more than likely forget what it was that you were talking about if they're interested in that. So make sure that if you do include video or interactive content, it's on point and it relates exactly to what you're writing about. All right, that is my show for this week. Try to keep it really quick, and there's thousands of articles on writing blog posts. I'd love to hear if you have any comments or suggestions. Feel free to sing out, write them in the comments, and I'll call them out and mention you and hopefully answer your questions. So make sure that you connect on any of these. Really, really would love if you subscribed on YouTube. We're so close to having a full-blown account. It's great. And just want to also shout out to everyone who's watched. We hit a massive milestone, which is 10,000 minutes watched over the last 6 months or whenever it was, however long it's been I think about 8 months now. So 10,000 minutes, which is massive. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned next week for the distribution part, which is a really critical part of writing a blog post, making sure that it gets shared or published and seen by as many people as possible. All right, well, that is me for this week. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.